Mr. Kaberuka, thank you so much for joining us on CNBC Africa. So there we go. There were your words in Mozambique. You're talking about the fiscal space to deal with external shocks being less at this point in time in Africa overall. You mentioned numbers like the overall fiscal balance falling from 4.6% of GDP before the crisis to a negative 3.6%. External account balance sitting pre-crisis 6.3% of GDP to negative 0.6%. How worried are you about the vulnerabilities of African countries right now?
Thank you. I'm still optimistic. The resilience of African economies is real. There are areas of concern. The fiscal position you mentioned, the leveling of commodity prices, and up until now also the spike in food prices and probably also fuel prices. Now that combination can be a bit toxic. But on balance, we are still optimistic. We have not changed our figures for economic growth for sub-Saharan Africa, which is 6.2% if you exclude South Africa. And if you include South Africa because of the size and openness of its economy, we're at about 5.5%, which is still credible. So the element of worry for us is what happens in the commodity markets, is a super cycle leveling off, what is happening in the BRICS, and you are watching all those elements carefully.
Because, of course, it's an important factor that we need to take a look at right now because pre the crisis, early 2000s, very dependent on aid and trade with the developed world. And, of course, now that's very quickly shifted to the emerging market world. What's your evaluation of how much of an impact that's going to have on SADC countries, basically?
Look, first of all, we should not exaggerate the importance of overseas development assistance, even before the crisis. It was less than 10% on average. In some countries, it's a bit higher. So I think the financing of our development has been mainly by a combination of other sources, remittances, domestic revenues, and so on. The crisis, the transmission mechanism to Africa has been mainly through lower export revenues, lower investment flows, and other elements, frankly, have been quite resilient.
Which elements? I mean, you obviously, you deal with a lot of these countries that are interested in perhaps working with you to invest in Africa. So where are we seeing the resilience and specific regions, specific countries?
The resilience comes in this way. People think that what has been happening to the African economy over the last 10 years is simply a linear relationship with commodities. It isn't. Domestic demand has been a key factor. The whole argument about the middle classes. Now, it is true that in this period, there will be what we call the floating middle classes, where the private consumption might decline, but we are still confident that part of our economy is very, very strong. So, domestic consumption, very strong. Investment flows have held up, changing in terms of composition, but holding up. Surprisingly, remittances, increasing, not decreasing. Not increasing at the same rate as before the crisis, but increasing nonetheless.
And of course, there are many countries, I mean, Kenya obviously a standout, but many of them very dependent on remittances. Let's talk about infrastructure, because this is a very interesting story. You talk about the fact that, infrastructure is, of course, an enabling factor for investment, and of course, it can also be a hindrance. You're looking at perhaps launching an Africa infrastructure bond. You talked about this in Mozambique. Can you give us a little bit more insight?
Look, time for an Africa infrastructure bond has come. And these are the reasons. The gap we have to fill, whether it is energy, transport, connectivity, is still large. Over the last 10 years, $50 billion into infrastructure. That is something, but it's 10% of what we need. Now, some countries are able to access capital markets. The price is high, but they do nonetheless. Domestic revenues are contributing. But we now have to figure out how to attract a significant amount of money into infrastructure. And we have to begin at home. So the idea is, with this continent holding $500 billion of reserves,
you mean
$500 billion.
Central banks you're talking
Absolutely.
about?
Yeah. Now, of course, countries have to hold reserves for many, many reasons. All we're saying is, these reserves are now earning, in some cases, around 1% return. There is security, of course, there is liquidity, but the return is very low. Now, we are a AAA rated institution. And the idea is, look, guys, why don't we take a small percentage of those resources, look for high return, I say high return, infrastructure projects which are attractive and invest to try and close the gap on the African continent. And I hope we can sell this idea because it makes sense from the viewpoint of the investor with the central bank. It makes sense from the view of we Africans in terms of the infrastructure program. And also we fulfill our role of the convening power in terms of resources and what has been done. I think we can no longer continue to depend upon foreign aid for some of the key projects.
When it comes to selling the idea, of course, to central banks, some saying it might be a bit more tricky. What type of appetite, what type of firstly response did you get when you talked about this Africa infrastructure bond? And what do you see as the biggest challenges to getting key central banks on board?
Look, there are a whole range of technical issues to be resolved, and those should not be underestimated. And so we need, first of all, to resolve those issues. And we are doing that right now. And I'm hoping that at the meeting of the IMF in Tokyo next month, I will get together the central bank governors and Minister of Finance, and we'll walk through those technical issues to let them know that there is security, first of all, there's good return, and also the development impact on Africa. That is Africa developing itself. So I don't think we should underestimate the technical hurdles to be overcome, but that is our work. Right now, what is important is to get the political buy-in to agree the idea is good.
Do you have that? I mean, do you sense that you could have that?
That is my duty, to ensure that I can mobilize that political role. That's why I spoke to heads of state. But now I think the second side is to work on the technical issues to ensure that people who have the public money, they can see security, a good return, and liquidity for some of them. So next month, a discussion in Tokyo with finance ministers, bank governors, and let us begin. We may begin few or at a smaller level than I propose, which is $22 billion. But let us nonetheless start.
Mr. Kaberuka, thank you so much for joining us. Best of luck selling it to the guys with the keys to the coffers in central banks. That was the president of the African Development Bank, Donald Kaberuka.